guys, this is Sam. Welcome to another ASMR video. I have my candle here. This candle is a Chesapeake Bay candle. It is scented like almond macaroons. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what it is. If you hear some strange hissing sounds in the background, what that is the radiator in my apartment, doing its job and kind of heating the place and the rooms. So if you hear that noise, I hope it's not too bothersome or too distracting for you. So the plan for today's video is I'm going to explain to you various types of tools that you often encounter in a kitchen, and I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about each tool and about what it's used for, and maybe some helpful tips and tricks that maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't, to help you get the most out of your usage of these tools. And I'm going to do this all kind of by candlelight, and that noise you hear now is my fridge. It's kind of kicking into high gear, I guess, maybe because the radiator is making the apartment so hot. The fridge is compensating maybe now to make sure that the food in it, the limited amount of food in it, stays cold. So I'm just going to grab a couple of things that I have lined up for you behind me. One by one, we'll go nice and slow, and I'll just let you know, I'll explain to you what everything basically is. Here we have a fork. I see you. This is a fork, like I said, and the purpose of a fork is, if you look real close at the fork, you can see it has four spear-like projections coming out of the base of the fork. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 of these sharp projections coming out of it, and you hold it. Well, let me show you how to hold it before anything else. So you want to take your middle finger and you kind of place the fork this way, the curve facing this way. You place it onto your middle finger, and then you use your pointer finger or your index finger, whatever you prefer, to kind of grasp it with the other side, and then your thumb, so put some pressure there so it doesn't go anywhere. And then you use your thumb to kind of seal the deal. Demonstration. So that's the way you hold it. If you hold it this way, this is not correct. So make sure that it is facing properly. Step 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And then you're in business. You're ready to use the fork. Make sure that you kind of use these 3 fingers to apply pressure and hold a firm grip on the fork to ensure that it doesn't go anywhere. So you've got the fork in your hands now. Now, as I was saying, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pronged spears at the end of the fork. And what you use these for is to stab. You kind of have to do a little bit of a thrust. Excuse me, I hit the fridge. That's not how you do it. You don't hit the fridge with the fork. Imagine you have a plate of food in front of you. You kind of reach. Actually, I can demonstrate. I have a good idea. I'm going to open the fridge. Hopefully it doesn't make too much noise. So here I have a Tupperware full of pears. This is a can of pears. There was a couple of cans of pears that I emptied into this Tupperware. So I'll demonstrate now how to use the fork using these pear slices, I should say. So here we have our pears. Here we have the fork, and I'm holding it the way we went over before, the way that we learned don't think I'm going to be able to. So here's the pears. So you kind of do a bit of a stabbing motion, as you can see. And then the 4 prongs at the end of the fork will ideally penetrate the food that you are trying to consume. And it will kind of hold it in place, almost like a kebab, like this. And it doesn't, all 4 of the prongs on the fork are equally as strong. And it doesn't really matter, you know, if you wanted to do it this way, you could do it this way, or if you wanted to maybe get a piece of food in a more horizontal fashion, like this, you can do that. It's really up to you. So that's a fork, and that is the primary use of the fork, is to be used to kind of stab into the food that you are eating. Ideally, the food is in, you know, small pieces, and you can kind of stab your fork individually into each small piece and then transfer it from the fork to your mouth. I should clarify that might be tricky. I'm gonna get another piece of pear here on the fork. Okay, perfect. So we've got the piece of pear on the fork here, and I want to clarify what I said about putting it from the fork to your mouth. I just want to maybe double check that we know what we're talking about here. So we have the pear penetrated, or whatever the food is, whatever you're eating, we have it on the fork, penetrated with the 4 prongs of the fork. And so what you can kind of do is wrap your mouth. I'm going to use my hand to demonstrate before I use my real mouth. You're going to kind of place, I'm just using some trick imagery here. So you're going to put the fork into your mouth with the piece of food on the end of it, not the whole fork, because it wouldn't fit. Maybe it would for some folks, but not for me for sure. And then you're going to want to close your mouth around the food at the end of the fork, like this. And then you keep your mouth closed, and while it's closed, you pull the fork away. So what you kind of do is you use your mouth to hold the food in place, and you pull the fork out, kind of like King Arthur removing the sword from the stone. You remove the fork from the food, using your mouth to hold the food in place. So I'll demonstrate with my real mouth. When you are done using your fork, when the meal has concluded, it is important that you wash the fork before you use it again the next time, because you are otherwise liable to get, particles or juices of food dried up and stuck to the fork, which is disgusting and horrible. So make sure that you wash the fork in between uses. So I'm going to deposit the fork, and now that we've went over it, I'm going to deposit it in the sink, because we're done with it for today. We don't need it anymore. So that's the fork. The fork is taken care of. Now, peanut butter has jelly, marshmallows have chocolate, the moon has the sun, the fork has a spoon. A spoon is the tails to the fork's head. The spoon is the other half of the fork. The spoon is the husband, and the fork is the other husband. They are essential to each other. Here's what a spoon looks like. I know it looks vastly different from a fork, but I promise you, it's in the same family of utensils and of tools. So here's the spoon. Here's the spoon from this angle, from this angle, from this angle, and once again from this angle. Here it is from the bottom. Here's a bird's eye view of the spoon. So, fork is used to stab the food and then move it into your mouth. What is a spoon used for? Well, I'll tell you. A spoon is used to transfer more aqueous and more liquidous, whatever, more wet foods or soups, whatever the case is, from the receptacle into your mouth. So if you have a bowl of soup or a bowl of cereal, you kind of, do I have a bowl? I have a bowl here. I'll demonstrate. This bowl is empty, but we'll pretend that there's some liquid in it just for demonstration purposes. What you're going to want to do with the spoon, wait, before I forget, the way we hold a spoon is much the same as we hold a fork. I'll demonstrate again. So you want the spoon to be facing this way. You want the curved side to be facing down. The curved side to be facing down. And you hold it much the same way as the fork. If you have confusion about that, you can rewind to the fork part where I did a much more in-depth tutorial on that part. But here's the bowl again, so I'll demonstrate with an empty bowl just so we're safe, just for demonstration purposes. Spoon at a bit of an angle. And then you kind of bring it up and out like that. And then when you come up with it after, the spoon, the little part of the spoon that's designed to hold, will be full of whatever kind of liquid or food is inside of the bowl. And then there will be the food in there. And then much like the fork, you transfer it into your mouth. And it's similar, so pretend we have a spoonful of food here. So again, this is a trick. I'm not really doing this. This is just for demonstration purposes only. You would put it in your mouth. You would close, maybe this way is better. Close your mouth. And then pull the spoon out with your mouth still closed so that your lips will prevent the liquid from exiting your mouth. And you will just pull the spoon out. It's really simple. So, I'm really happy that I remembered about this here Tupperware full of pears and pear juice, because it's an excellent way to demonstrate all of these tools, really. So, I just got a text message I was looking at, excuse me. So, as you can see, there's a lot of liquid inside of this Tupperware. So I'll demonstrate now. Again, remember, you go in at a bit of an angle, and then you scoop upwards. So here we go. This is a little tricky, because usually the bowl, this has a bunch of pears in it that I'm trying not to get. I'm trying to just get the juice. There we go, I got some. I can't really turn it to you because I'll lose the juice, but there is indeed juice in the spoon from the Tupperware that I got out from the Tupperware using the method that I showed you. I kind of go in at an angle and scoop it out. So now I'm going to put it in my mouth just like I did with the fork. I'm going to demonstrate how to use the spoon. But this time, we're live. This is real. So here we go. It's that easy. One thing you can do to make it a little easier, it's a trick I just remembered, as you're putting the spoon in your mouth. Up a little bit, so the liquid drips from the spoon into your mouth. There's one more major, have to know it kitchen utensil that I'll be going over before we wrap things up today. This is a knife. This specifically is a butter knife, because a knife is an umbrella term, and a lot of different kinds of tools, and in some cases even weapons, can be used as knives. But what we have here is relatively harmless. It's called a butter knife because it's commonly used for butter at the table. So this one looks very different from the spoon and the fork. It looks kind of similar from all angles. So, if you notice when I'm handling, I'll show you. Wait a minute. other utensils are dirty, but if you noticed, when I was handling the spoon and the fork, I was not afraid to touch it all over, to just get my hands all over it, get my hands dirty touching the spoon and the fork. But with the knife, if you notice, I'm careful to only handle it by the handle half of the knife. So there's this half of the knife, which is the handle, and then this half, which is commonly referred to as the blade of the knife. And if you look real close, you can kind of see along the edge here, the blade has little serrated edges. It's like a zigzag pattern. And that is designed to cut things, including, not with this knife probably, but with more serious and more weapon-like knives or sharper knives. They can cut things, including by accident, such as skin. So be careful with any knife to make sure you handle it only by the handle. Make sure not to point it at people. Make sure not to use it as a toy. Make sure not to, cut your hand as a joke. This is not a toy. And that's not to say that the other two utensils are toys, because those also are not, but the knife specifically is not a toy. So be sure not to treat it as such. Handle it with respect and handle it with safety and the knowledge of what this is and what this can do. So, a knife you can hold in a similar way to a spoon or a fork, but it's not ideal the way that I hold a knife. And I know this isn't quite the right way. I've been told by many different people that this isn't the right way you use a knife, but this is just kind of what I do. I hold it. I'll demonstrate. So you can see I have the handle kind of in my hand, kind of reaching into my palm a little bit, and I'm using my pinky finger and my ring finger and my middle finger to kind of keep it in place. And then I will use my pointer index finger to kind of put pressure down on the knife. And a knife is commonly used with a fork. I'm going to grab the fork again to show you. Where did I put it? There it is. So commonly with a larger piece of food, what you'll do is, this is the way I do it. You'll stab it with the fork, and then you'll take the knife, and you'll use the fork to hold it in place as you use the knife in a back and forth motion to cut the piece of food. And then you kind of pull away with the fork, and you will have the piece of food on the fork, the smaller bite-sized piece of food on the fork. Now a knife, especially a butter knife, has many other functions. It's used to cut butter, to spread things such as jelly or peanut butter or the blood of your enemies, really anything you want. But for this video, for this very introductory video, for elementary purposes, for a kind of 101 basic purposes, that's what you use the knife for. Now, once again, as I just said, this video is intended to be a very introductory video to kitchen tools. We're not going to get advanced yet. Maybe someday I'll do another video where we go into paper towels, go a little more in depth with bowls. Maybe we'll talk about the faucet head, which sprays water. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll never make that video. I don't know. But for today, this video is intended just to be sort of an introductory, to just give you a surface level of knowledge to what's out there about basic kitchen tools, kitchen utensils, and how to use them. Thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you have a great day, a great evening, whatever time of day it is for you. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.